Hey, it's Don. Today I wanted to answer a question that I received from multiple people, the very same basic question. Now, a lot of people who are just starting out ask me, should they center in on one item? Should they go after multiple niches? Where should they start? Where do they need to invest their time? My best answer on that is to look up everything you find and not worry about any specific item when you first start. You're going to have a huge learning curve no matter what you do. Let's say you center in on a niche and you just want to center in a niche. First questions, if you're new to reselling, can you find it? Are you able to get the niche? Is it something you can actually find to keep selling over and over again? Is it worth your investment in that niche? Is there money in the niche? Now, I've talked about ways to research categories and things like that too, so it all comes to play with that. Your best bet is to learn a little bit about a whole bunch of niches that you currently run into. Now, I'm not saying spend hours on each one, but the basic information, what will make you the most money knowing something would be to know a little bit about each thing, enough to know which ones to look up so you're not wasting your time. Knowing the basics about any of the niches that you want to be in is your first start. Start with a couple, you'll run into this item, that item. Books. Books is one of the easiest ones that most people pop into if you're looking for vintage. Now, if you're like electronics, for example, obviously you're going to have to know a little bit about electronics to know which things you're looking for, which VCR brands, which DVD players, any of that sort of thing. You're going to need to know specifics, at least the basic specifics. The number one thing, though, that you got to know is know how to use your phone and know how to look up the items that you're unsure of. As long as you can take a phone in with you, know enough to know which items to pull and look up, you're going to be doing very, very well. I can assure you of that. The research is like the majority of the work that you need to do when you're outsourcing. You're going to run into stuff all the time. You're eventually going to look up the same thing over and over again and realize what is and isn't worth money because you're going to run into the same thing. Like me, if I go to certain stores, I run into cards, postcards, comics, records, toys, whatever, at almost every one of the places, the type of places that I go to. Now, if you're a thrift store shopper, you're going to run into clothes, you're going to run into books, you're going to run into various different things like china and plates and glasses, dishes, even some NOS items and things like that, old printers and things. You'll look up the same printers, you'll realize which models, which names. Just like with remote controls for TVs. It's another item that I find all over the place. If you know the brands that usually do better, you can usually look at a remote control, tell what it goes to by the types of buttons that are on it, even if you aren't sure on it. If not, look it up, of course. Always look them up. Now, once you've done this for just a little bit, you're going to have some items up, you're going to have revenue coming in, and then at that point, you can branch out a little bit. You can think a little bit more outside the box. You can research an item. Records is another good one if you've got the patience. Biggest thing is knowing where to search things at. If you want to know some good sites which you can use on your phone, I've got a link right up here to another video that has links for 10 different sites that are all free you can use from your phone that will immensely help you while you're outsourcing. Again, you don't have to know everything about a specific niche to move on. All you need to know is enough so you can at least look up and find the information you need. I don't remember every single record. I don't remember every single card or every single anything. I know enough to pick certain ones because I know they always sell because I've done this for so long. I learned enough to be able to tell how to look them up, how to price certain things based on other items in the same niche or category that may not be identical but are similar. That's another good ploy that you need to do. So don't just center in on any one niche when you're first starting off in my book. My niches I looked into a little bit before I got into them. After I had been doing this for a while, I sold books, I sold clothing, I did all that stuff. The niches that I ended up selling in pretty much fell into my lap. Again, I didn't bomb or look to get into one specific niche. I looked at paper and things in general and was able to find certain types of paper over and over and over again. And then it got easier and easier and easier as I looked for this stuff. So it started turning up everywhere, and that turned into my first niche. Postcards, trade cards, all that sort of thing just kind of came into view and was right there in front of me. And I've been seeing it before and never thought much about it until we decided to get away from books when Amazon changed the structure for how the fees are done for storage and long-term and all that kind of thing. You know, that's the key to picking an area. You start off small, you start off broad, just going across the gambit to see if you can find anything that's worth money. You know, you got to know the basics on how to look everything up while you're out. Your phone is your best tool while you're out, hands down, no matter what. Second best tool is your own knowledge of doing this for a length of time. Minus the knowledge of length of doing this, your phone is going to be your number one best bet for being able to advance your business. Your phone, plainly your phone is it. So as long as you can look up a niche or look up certain items, you will be doing very well. And then you can move on from there. We started off small. I started off, as I said, in just a couple of niches. Originally, it was books and things, and we did sell antiques, collectibles, and toys. But books and things we could get in mass quantity as well. They were easily and readily available, especially good books, because when we started doing that, most people weren't doing books. Most people weren't doing clothing either, and a couple $1,000s of clothing would carry you over very well because many people weren't messing with it like they are today. So as we went on, we learned that, hey, we need to center in on something to have some specialty. You need to control something in a specific niche would be your end goal, of course, and then to expand and get a second niche, a third niche, fourth niche, fifth niche, until you're covering a wide range of items. That leaves your options so much more open than anything else. You'll have a broad range that way of items to find. You won't be centering in. Many people want to pick a niche. They'll pick one thing that they really like and that they want to sell, and then they'll go out looking for it, and they'll be passing up other items because they think it'll be a waste of time to go outside their niche. That's where a lot of people, when they first start off, fail, unless you know a massive amount about the one niche that you are going to be selling in, including finding it. You're going to be sinking yourself. Just go out in the attempt to find stuff, any stuff, to look for it that you can turn around and flip. Obviously, a good BOLO list is great, should be in your head so you know immediately what you're looking for, but you would be surprised at all the areas people miss, even at a thrift store, whether it be hardware, used sports, blankets, papers, rack stuff hanging up there, adapters, switches, old electronics, wiring stuff for a house, even kitchen appliances or anything. You don't necessarily just have to tie yourself down to selling on one site or one venue. There's local options to sell. So don't just lock yourself into one area. You have got to be able to broadly look at stuff when you're first going out. Now for us, I've got dozens and dozens of niches, areas that I know very well from doing it for 20 plus years. You know, it's taken me 20 years to get here, so don't just expect to start off and be upset or worried that you're not finding enough of this item or that item. Again, it's going to take you time to figure this out. If you start off just broadly looking, you're going to learn quick ways to research. You're going to learn all the tools to research. You'll be able to find good items. You'll know what does work for you and what doesn't work for you. Now, even if you're finding good, great items, stuff that will go very well, you have competitors out there. And those competitors could be selling them much higher than you because you aren't familiar with the keywords and things like that. If you're going to go into some niches, or even if there's items that you find and you're not sure, I look at competitors all the time. I look what they list things for, what they sell them for, keywords they use, the type of photos that they use. Those are all important issues that you need to know involved in this. So I wouldn't go sinking a ton of time until you get that. Once you get that and you've got some items coming in, as I said, that's your time to expand. You've got a free time. You've got stuff coming in where revenue's coming in. Now, it could take you a few years to get to a point where you can start broadening your reach. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time to do this. You've got to have a stable business to begin with to even think about going in and centering on one specific item. You've got to have the backbone, the knowledge, the experience to keep this rolling, you know, the longevity and I guess, concentration on what you're doing. I mean, if this is your only source of income, that's so important. So when we first started, obviously, we bought anything that would make us money. It didn't really matter at all. You know, it just depends on where you source. Again, I can source antique malls, thrift stores, estate sales, flea markets, garage sales, church sales, local live auctions, and things along that line are all awesome places to go to source, but every sourcing venue you go to will have different things that you will be sourcing for. I don't expect to find vintage paper that much in a thrift store. Most of the time not at a church sale, but if I go to a church sale, I would expect to find sheet music, records, and things like that, including books. You'll find a lot of religious items too, which I do make a lot of money in as well. So if you want to at least find a niche to shop in, like you love going to church sales, for an example, which I do. Church sales are always very good if you know which ones to go to. Around here, there's probably 15 or 20 in some months, just individual months during the summer around here. Now, out of those, there's only 4 or 5 that are really decent to go to. And if they're on the same day again, I know which ones to go to. I have niche market stuff that I get at those specific 4 or 5 that I go to every single year. And they're there year after year after year. There's usually high dollar items. Now, I've talked about sourcing and things like that. I go to neighborhoods where there is more money, where the per capita income is higher than other areas. You can look up the demographics of where you want to shop, including the median income of a specific area. The higher the median income in that area, the more chance I have of finding better items, in most cases at certain church sales or certain thrift stores, certain estate sales and things like that. And along with estate sales, if you're going to be doing in vintage niches, you're going to need to go to some estate sales. Same ploy goes. Certain neighborhoods around here are the best neighborhoods to thrift in. We've got a neighborhood called the Old West End here in Toledo. They have a huge sale every year, and then there's estate sales throughout the year. That is one of the best places to go because all of the homes there were built in the 20s or before. I have found just massive amounts of stuff, even with streets packed with people. Far too many people don't know certain areas that I'm in, or don't mess with it, or just aren't up on their game on something. So again, there's a great aspect to having a bunch of niches, but don't rush yourself into it and pinhole yourself into one specific category until you are ready. Just shop for anything you can find that's going to make you some money. Again, experience into this, do this for a little while, get some stuff rolling, understand the platforms that you're selling on. Again, there's quite a few platforms to sell on. I've had people ask me some of the ones to sell on: McCrary, Bonanza, eBay, of course. Amazon is awesome as well. You've got Hip Stamps, Hip Postcards, Hip Comics. You've got Discogs, Etsy, of course. Poshmark, if I didn't say that already, is another decent one, depending on what you sell. Now, each platform we sell on has different idiosyncrasies to them. Some items sell better on one platform. Some items sell better on another platform. You got to get the hang of that. So dig that information out as well. Again, if there's certain niches that you do sell, realize which platforms those niches will give you more profit on. In many cases, like 78 Records, which is something that I sell, I can get more money on Amazon for a vintage 1920 78 record than I can on eBay. Sometimes certain 45s are flooded on one site, such as on eBay, like a Sun, let's say Johnny Cash. Now, if I go to Discogs, I might have a little better luck selling it quicker. So you've got to weigh your options. How much are fees here? How much are fees there? Now, tying down a niche is something you should try to do at some point because it will give you a heads up. Like us having 15 or 20% of an entire category would be a huge thing. That would give you a heads up over anybody else selling in that category, because 1 out of 5 of the items that anybody would see on average would be your items. So your name would be known for it. And if you're picking a niche like we've got collectible niches, we've got certain collectors that come back every single month, sometimes every other week. I have people buying certain things over and over and over again in that niche. So a niche is great. One thing a niche will always seem to do is give you return business, as well as the chance on having multiple purchases to the same seller. It's very hard to do that with one-offs. So again, it is good to have a niche. You just got to work yourself into it slowly. Don't just hop in and try and pigeonhole yourself, as I said. So again, those are the basics on it. Hopefully that gives you a good answer on that question there. Sourcing is a skill to some extent. You got to have good locations, though, to source at, and you got to have at least the basic knowledge or the ability to look up anything you can't find. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
Thunderclap.
Thunderclap is setting a trap.
Two incredible Cobra-smashing attack vehicles, towing one monster gun.
Nobody needs G.I. Joe.
Thunderclap comes with driver.
Yo-Yo!